Behold again the turning of the sun, the time for summer solstice begun. Stay with us, treasured turning sun. Oh, Holy Lamb, you baptized Jesus, the Son of Man. Stay with us through the turning sun. In Jordan's waters, your angelic might baptize for us heavenly light, from turning sundown to earth's night. Behold again the turning of the sun, the time for summer solstice begun. Stay with us, treasured turning sun. Oh, John, you witness of Christ, the Holy Lamb. You baptized Jesus, the Son of Man. Stay with us through the turning sun. In Jordan's waters, your angelic might baptize for us heavenly light, from turning sundown to earth's night.
I am Bernd Ehlen, and I work here at the campus schools, and I started writing therapy here 16 years ago.
My name is David Newbat, and I've been, I suppose, almost 20 years in Camp Hill now. And having done many things in Camp Hill, I'm now the sort of resident artist, and I teach in the classes, not just teaching painting, but working really therapeutically.
My name is Henning Münstermann, and I'm a teacher here, a teacher of class 11, 17-year-old youngsters.
Well, one day you will be seen on the screen.
Ready, steady, go. Set. Forward.
That's it.
That's it.
Go.
I really started on the basis of some very glowing, really tremendous reports we were getting from some friends in England who had used polo ponies, ex-polo ponies, and had started riding for disabled. And at first, they were trying to improve the coordination of the children. They had mainly physically handicapped children. And then they discovered, more or less by accident, that in many children, after a while, the speech started to come out. And they made the claim that riding therapy improved speech. Now, I thought that was a very unlikely proposition, really. But I thought, well, we have very many children here who are speech impaired, very many non-speaking children. So I thought we should try it. And we started with very modest beginnings.
All right.
And from there, the work has really grown until we have now 2 full-time therapists, and we have a riding school. We have 4 horses fully trained. We breed our own horses now because we have to train them very specifically. Every child has to be approached differently. You can't just, have a method. There are very many different ways. There are basically 4 different basic approaches. The one relates very much to physiotherapy. You see, many of our children are impaired in their walk. When you look at them from the distance already, you can see that somehow the whole movement of the walk, the whole movement of the hips is not correct. Something has gone wrong. And one knows, of course, that when the walk is impaired, that also the whole development of thinking can be affected. And some very clever Swiss people tried to make a machine so that you could put the child onto a machine and you would assimilate the normal walking movement, which is a very complicated rolling pattern. It looks so simple, but when they began to investigate, they found it was very complex. And the best instrument that has been found to do this is the back of the horse. These very complex rolling movements are closest to what the horse presents in a normal 4/4 rhythm stride. Yeah. You need a horse with a bit of intelligence. You cannot have a stupid horse. You must have a horse with brains. Yeah, he's got the intelligence. He really does.
Still a bit streaky.
Yes, it's all right. Leave that.
Yeah, but it's all right, it's all right.
That's it. Down you go. He
Down
is
into the
somebody
earth.
who finds it very difficult to, in a sense, stand on the ground and
Keep going.
to do something simply, properly and simply.
Good.
He tends to wander off with his ideas.
Uh-huh.
And when he's sitting in the class,
Some
he sort of
leaves
is
coming.
gazing up and,
Tree.
or over here, or over here.
I see.
But to really be centered and to really work or to use his hands. In his drawings, you see that he'll do all the details of everything, but the substance, the strength is not there. And sometimes he also gets very peculiar ideas as well. Now, in the painting here, what I wanted him to do was something very, very simple, but demands the concentration and the care, and to make the sunlight and the darkness of the earth, and to have a very simple experience of taking the yellow like the seed, and to let the yellow fall down into the ground like a seed in autumn, having its winter sleep, and then rising up as a fresh blade of green.
I will put you.
The thing is that the child usually paints his imbalance on the picture. And therefore, by looking at the picture and trying to feel what the picture would need, you can then find an answer to the child's need. Now, another whole thing is how much to suggest, encourage, how much to demand of the child. That's another whole thing. I mean, if a child is very, very sensitive, you don't push them through a picture in order to make the picture right. And rather than taking one day to do it all, and the child comes out in a sweat, and it's all been too much, you might want to take 10 weeks, it may be 6 months, it may be a year, to really, fulfill something.
took on this class when they were 14, and it was right from the beginning a very large group of youngsters, and very disturbed youngsters, very hysteric, epileptic and maladjusted emotional problems. And many of these children were in this class, and it took a time to establish a class and work in such a way that eventually they could work together as a group. By now it is so that they have matured a lot, and 17 years of age, it is possible to do good work with them.
Hungry for hammer blows, and the rambunctious hive that once was there. And when I prayed, my voice slid to the ground like a crashed pediment. And there was a demolition written over the walls. And picnic parties laughed on a heap of stone. But gradually, I was aware of someone in the doorway. And carved out of sunlight, a man who stood watching me, so still.
The play is a very different sort of situation.
That there wasn't any
when you're in a
such
class,
other
they're sitting
still
behind their
anywhere
desks.
on the earth.
They can do their writing, their reading. And in a play, it is so that one has to be able, the pupil has to be able to take on a part that he isn't. Yeah, this is a role that he's been given. He has to be able to act with the others. He has to be able to speak properly, and he has to be willing to work with the group. And that, for my class, was the most difficult thing. In the end, when one saw this wonderful performance, but we worked almost 3/4 of a year on it to get it that far, and it was sometimes very difficult. The children can get very aggressive towards each other, and the youngsters can get destructive and so on. But in the end, they know they would like to do it, and then it's all right. And then they want to present it. And then they have done very well.
It will never be done. It'll never be done.
Here's the boy! Here he is!
Son, what is the matter? The king post is in position now. The church will be finished. And what about your beds?
When I give them, like John, who had the main part, the Kaufman, he is a very psychotic youngster who has many fixations, obsessions.
I was alone.
But when he takes on this part of Kaufman, he is a different person in this play. And often this has got a very strong effect on these pupils, that they have the chance to take on another person. And often relate to this role, this different person they take on, in a very beautiful way. They can forget a little bit about their problems. They can forget a little bit about all what usually is in their life, whether it be it movement, be it whatever they have to do. And they can be quite different. And John in particular has benefited from that tremendously, to have taken on a life of a different person for this short time, but it will give him something that will feed him for the rest of his life. He can do it, and then it's fine. And when you have seen him in the weavery, he can also do good work there. But often he has very deep emotional problems, and that will stop him to be active. Sometimes he will just sit and be completely unable to do anything, for instance. But in this play, where he took on this role as this boy who built a church with the others, he is full of energy, he's full, of enthusiasm, and then he wants to do it, and then it works, you see. And then he can do it.
I heard him say, I was a carpenter. That there under the bare walls of our labour, death and life were knotted together, indivisible as root and sky.
Parts of the Roman army penetrated into Scotland and came as far north as this location here. And there was originally a Roman camp there. So that is actually where the name originates. Camp Hill, the camp on the hill, namely the Roman camp on the hill. The community that is today here started in 1940. And it was, in fact, at this time of the year, in June 1940, when the first group of Austrian refugees moved into Camp Hill House, having fled from Nazi Germany. They didn't exactly know what they were going to do. They had come over here to seek refuge, for obvious reasons. And right from the beginning, it was really so that their relationship among each other was such that they didn't want employment. They didn't want a boss and wages and money. That wasn't the point. So actually, the development of the community happened to begin with quite naturally. Very soon, the local authorities became aware of it. And at first, it was a home. It was at first not a school. It was a home. And then there arose the question, well, what about all the staff children? So a school was actually started for the staff children. And then into that school for the staff children, some of the handicapped children were added. And that became so successful that the whole school impulse of what is today the St. John's School really started. And of course today it is so that almost all children here are sent by local authorities from all over Britain, not only from Scotland.
I'm living Kelly.
And
Yes, I know.
we of course receive from the local authorities a fee.
Yeah.
We have at present 160 children, and we are in total 159 staff. We live together on a community basis. It doesn't mean that we live without money, of course not. But we do not claim wages in the traditional sense, inasmuch as each house community makes a budget. We look at each other's budgets, and we talk, and sometimes we exchange, and it's not just always so easy, because also in this country now money has become very tight. We have 18 house units, and within a house, it is up to the house community, to every member of the house community, to be involved, to be aware, and to know what is going on, also the way the money is spent. And one discusses when we want to go on holiday. We can't all go on big holidays, yeah? So we would have a discussion well ahead of time and know how we are going to distribute that.
I am the daughter of earth and water, and the nursling of the sky. I pass through the pores of the oceans and shores. I change, but I cannot die. For after the rain, when we've never a say, the pavilion of heaven is there. And the winds and sunbeams, with their convex wings, build up the blue dome of the air.
The educational system here is an adapted system from the Waldorf curriculum. There are very many Waldorf schools all over the world. There are very many of them also in Germany, but all over the continent. And this was, of course, a school system which was started still by Rudolf Steinera in 1925. And the first Waldorf school was in Stuttgart, and that is where it gets its name from, because it was started with the capital of the Waldorf Astoria cigarette factory. And from there, this educational system has spread all over the world. And Rudolf Steinera, of course, during his lifetime, was very concerned that education would not become one-sided, that it would be a broad-based education, and that, above all, education should not only be a science, it should also be an art. And one should find ways in which one teaches every subject from an artistic point of view. Even arithmetic in the Waldorf curriculum is taught from an artistic point of view.
Yes, touching.
What we use here as a curriculum is the full Waldorf school curriculum with all the subjects that you will find in that curriculum, from the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic, over languages, your history, your geography, your sciences, the whole lot.
Very small amount of water in the bottom of the can, and then we heated it. What did we heat it with, David?
Heat it off fire.
Fire, yes. What did the fire come from?
Gas.
And the gas, wasn't it? What's the name of this which we use to provide heat? A Bunsen burner, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. So we heated it then with the Bunsen burner. We heated the water in the can. Right. Now, what was the first thing? First of all, it was an open can, wasn't it? Craig, what happened when we heated the water in the open can? What Clouds of what came out of the can?
Smoke.
You're not right, anyway. Clouds of what came out of the can, Craig?
Steam.
Yes, right. Clouds and clouds of steam came out of the can.
If you manage to teach science in an artistic way, the child will benefit from that and will take something in. It is so easy to think, but these children don't understand anything, and what is the point? 50 years experience has told us that that is a big mistake, that we should never assume that because the child doesn't immediately respond and does not immediately answer, that therefore it has not understood. That one must really look at it from the opposite way. And that has been one of the fundamental ways in which Camp Hill has altogether addressed the situation. We can, of course, say, but this child can't do this, it can't do that, it can't do the next. But now turn that round and say, what qualities does the child have? What qualities can we find in the child? And how many of these qualities are still underneath, inside, hidden? And our job is, education. What the word says, educare, to lead out. To lead out from a world of images and fantasy into the world of reality.
John stands here before you. Old have I been, and young. Once, long ago, I gave the names to all things living on the earth.
Stars in our darkness, is all ours. This is the song of light. The sun stands high in the zenith. The moon sustains its splendor. Oh, say the noble. Stars in our darkness, this is the song of us. This is the song of light. The sun stands high in the zenith. The moon sustains its splendor.
stories burned down, and Kaufman's life is puffed like a dandelion into uncertain places. But the hand still leads the earth to drink at the sky, and still the messenger rides into the city of leaves under the gradual fires of September. The spring shall hear, the winter shall be wise, to warning of aconite and freezing lily, and all shall watch the auger of a star and learn their stillness from a stiller heaven. And what of us, who upon Kaufman's world have crafted progress without lock or ratchet? What of us, who have to catch up always, to catch up with the high-powered car, or with the unbalanced budget to cope with competition, to weather the sudden thunder of the uneasy frontier? We also loom the earth over the waterways of space, between birth and death. You may touch understanding as a moth brushes against a window with its wing. Who shall question then why we lean our bicycles against the hedge and go into the house of God? Who shall question the coming out of our doorways? We have discerned a little. We have known more than the gossip that